All right, hello folks. This is hopefully going to be a very quick video. Dismiss. I just want to share some updates to our Convolution Reverb. There's a couple of main ones. The first one is that we now support TrueStereo along with a bunch of other fixes for the Convolution Reverb. So, and I'll talk very briefly about what the difference is between stereo and TrueStereo, or mono to stereo and TrueStereo. And then the other thing is we have added a cool feature to audio volumes, which will allow users to essentially swap out Submix effects chains or override Submix effects chains on Submixes by using this audio volume. So, let's just briefly talk about what TrueStereo is versus stereo or mono to stereo. Sometimes it's called, and the reason it's called that is in a mono to stereo or just a regular stereo, however you want to call it. M to S, I think, is probably the most common way of calling it. It's just a stereo wave file as the impulse. But what that means is that the left channel will be applied to the left channel input of the audio signal, and the right channel of the impulse will be applied to the right channel input of the audio signal. And what the consequence of that is that if you have 100% of the signal in the left channel or 100% of the signal in the right channel, then the effect is going to be only 100% output in one of those channels. Okay, and so that's why it's sometimes called mono to stereo, because in reality it's a stereo. Yes, it's a stereo file, but each of the individual channels are actually being treated like mono processors. Whereas with a true stereo effect, the 100% of the left channel comes, if you have 100% in the left channel, energy in the left channel, the left channel comes in and it's processed by both a left channel impulse and a right channel crosstalk impulse. If you have a signal coming in the right channel, it is processed by both a right channel impulse as well as a left channel crosstalk impulse. All right. And so what this means is that if 100% of your signal is coming in the left channel, then you'll actually get energy out of both channels. And this is actually more realistic. That's why it's sometimes called true stereo, even though it's actually a quad file being treated as a stereo. And it's more realistic because in the world, in actual spaces, if you have a sound coming in from just the left side of your head, you will still hear the reverberation in the right side of your ear, right? Because the reverberation is the sort of indirect outward spread of the sound in the space itself, right? And reflecting off of all the surfaces. So I'm going to set up a really quick test to kind of demonstrate this. And then I'm going to throw it away and then just do a quick example in the level of the audio volume swapping between two reverb impulses. So yeah, let's start out. I've got this stereo file. It's actually just a mono signal, but I made it stereo so that I can do a little pan effect to have the signal only come from the left side or only on the right side. So we can kind of get a sense of how a true stereo and a mono to stereo reverb sort of react to the signal. And as my impulse, I have a couple of impulses, one that are actually of the same preset. And one is a just normal mono to stereo reverb recording, and then one is a quad, so that means that it's got the crosstalk. And so and if you listen to them both, they will sound nearly identical because they're the same preset, right? But and this is where we'll see the crosstalk makes a huge difference And so let's set this up. Let's set up a little test, a little test here. We're going to create a submix. We'll just call this our convolution effect submix. Nothing fancy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to select both the query stereo and the query TrueStereo, and we're going to just right click and go create impulses. I'm going to save them. All right, so on the if you now open up impulse response, you'll see a new flag that you can indicate on TrueStereo reverbs to indicate it is a TrueStereo reverb. And what this means is that instead of treating it like a quad surround reverb, it's going to treat it like a TrueStereo reverb. And so the third and fourth channel will be the crosstalk channels. Okay. And if you have an 8-channel file, it will actually collapse it to two TrueStereo pairs, which is pretty incredible. Although I have not tested this. So there's some improvements to our impulse configuration in general, the support we have for different IR types. And then, so there's that. So we've got this, we've got our, this setup. Cool. So now we have our impulses. And now we just need our convolution effect, our Submix effect preset, convolution reverb effect. And we'll just call this our test. Oh, actually, let's call this our query. We'll just reverb. We'll call that. There we go. Okay. All right. Now, what I like to do first is start it with the stereo, the mono to stereo style reverb, which is what we've been using up until now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a little manual send inside of this viola performance. Let's make it looping. Before I do that, let's just listen to it real quick so you can get a sense. Excuse me. So yeah, so this is the viola solo that you can download in the spatial audio tempo level. It's by Jeff Ball, who's an awesome string player and also an awesome composer. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up a little submix send, just a manual send. So let's switch over to manual mode. And then we will go right to the convolution effect reverb submix. And then the manual mode will allow me to just sort of manually control how much I'm sending to the effect. And so let's open up our submix and we'll just add our query reverb to it right straight away. So if we're to play this, we can maybe, there we go. So we've got a nice reverberant sound. Let's go with something, say like 0.35. We'll just stick it there. How's that? Very nice. So what I'm also going to do is add a little pan effect so I can manipulate the left and right staging a little bit here. So I'm going to add a little preset chain for this effect. We'll just call it our viola effect chain, even though we're only going to be adding the one effect right now. It's just let's create a little stereo pan source effect. Boop, 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 boop. Panner preset. Okay. All right. Now I can collapse the image to a mono signal, although it's already a mono signal, and then affect the balance like so. Oh, Sorry, I need to actually add the effect chain. Classic Dan. Okay, source effect chain. We add our source effect chain. Boom. There we go. There we go. And this is quite a forceful recording. This is basically a very hot, dry recording. And so I'm just going to sort of attenuate it just a little bit. We'll go 0.25. It's a little loud on in my headset right now. Okay. So I've got the reverb. If I move it over to the right side, you know, you've got all the reverberation on the right side now. Now, what's important to understand is here, I am just panning the input to the reverb. Okay? What's happening is that 100% of the energy is in the left channel, or the 100% of the energy is in the right channel, and so because it's a mono to stereo reverb configuration, the left channel is just working on the left channel, and the right channel impulse is just working on the right channel, and so the output is equivalent, 100% in the right or 100% in the left. Now in the 3D game, it's not as noticeable. It's not as noticeable. What it results with is the sense of a prominent reverb also reverberating from the sort of direction of the sound source. And the reason it's not as prominent in 3D space is because you're never 100% left or 100% right. You're always somewhere in between. And so you're still getting some sense of a left reverberation and right reverberation, but what the consequence of this approach is that you get this very focused reverb. It sounds like the reverberation is coming from the sound source itself. Now, okay, so while it's playing, I'm going to boldly swap out to our TrueStereo. We'll see if this works. I might make a little hitch, but we'll see. And this is, I don't know how much this has been exercised, but basically it's kicking the old reverb. It's creating it's building a brand new impulse a convolution processor, and then swapping it. So this is not the way I would switch between them in game, but for testing purposes, it's fine. Okay, so let's play this. So this is the normal stereo reverb, right? So once again, let me just give you a sense. When it was moving across, it seemed all right. But once you hit that far right and far left, you've got nothing going on the other side. Now let's switch. Instantly, the stage comes to life. You have natural crosstalk from the right side to the left side, from the left side to the right side. And of course, you have an absolutely phenomenal performance by Jeff. I love this solo. Hear how it bounces across the stage? It's beautiful. Okay, so now we've got the sense of what TrueStereo brings to the party. I mean, I could go back, right? And swap back to there, but we don't have to. Now, the consequence, of course, the consequence is you have doubled the number of convolution channels. So yes, it is better, but you have actually doubled the number of convolution channels. So I would use it responsibly, okay? I would use it responsibly. I think it's very powerful, but I would use it responsibly. Now, the other thing that I wanted to show you just very briefly is to go back to the convolution effect itself. because there have been some updates there as well. You'll notice if I toggle down the settings, we have improved. Basically, we've improved the mixing support in and out of the processor. So we now offer, by default, down mixing to whatever the configuration of the reverb impulse, and then up mixing back to whatever the submix channel configuration is. So you can now expect, if you've got a surround project and you've got, say, a TrueStereo impulse, it will automatically down mix to the TrueStereo impulse and up mix back to the surround. And you have some options as well, which are very powerful options. You can actually invert the rear channel bleed phase. You can flip the surround rear channels, and both of these are ways to enhance the if you're using a stereo reverb, the output of the stereo reverb feeling different in the rears. But you have to be sort of careful with this. I wouldn't necessarily do this all the time. Do it when you know that your project's going to be delivered on surround systems, right? Because obviously, if you're on a stereo system, if your user's on a stereo system, and you've got, for some reason, you're up mixing to surround and then down mixing back to stereo, you could of course introduce some weird stuff. So these are off by default. But if you know that your delivery is surround, your user's on surround, then this can be very powerful. All right, and then you also have a rear channel bleed. So this can be a great way to sort of, determine how much of the rears actually get the effect. All right, so we're gonna do that. We're gonna create a new one. I have this small room. All right, just a tiny little room, and we'll make an impulse of that. It's a TrueStereo impulse. There it is. And we will indicate that it's TrueStereo. Oh, and let's get rid of the stereo pan effect. I don't need this for the in-game test, so we'll just do this. Reset this, the volume. We will scroll down, and we'll just get rid of this submix send. We will use attenuation. And so, and then let's get rid of this. We don't need this little test effect chain anymore. Okay, now let's create sound attenuation. This will be our viola attenuation. And I'm going to go with a natural fall off with a tight radius and a long fall off distance. And then we'll close the 3D stereo gap. We'll just close this to 0. And then we're going to scroll down, and then we're going to add our attenuation submix. And what this does is it adds a distance-based send to a submix of your choice. And we're going to go to our convolution effects submix. We're going to choose linear. We're going to make the smallest something, 0.1, and then we will maybe tighten this up as well to 100. So that means when I'm at my closest, it's only going to be sending 10% of the signal to our effect. But the signal will be much stronger because of my attenuation. I'll be much closer to the signal, and so it's actually going to be sending a lot more to the reverb, even if it's just 10% of that amount. As I stroll away, it's going to send increasingly more percentage of the signal to the reverb. So even though our attenuation is dropping the volume of the dry sound, the wet is going to be increasing, and it creates a nice crossfade to create a sort of a bloom of reverberation as you walk away from something, making it sound increasingly ambient. Okay, and so once that's set, we have on our effect our query reverb. So if we place our little viola in the space, Let's drop a sphere. I guess we'll just put it wherever, it doesn't matter. Let's make it that annoying red color. I make all of my little spheres, and then we will just add a simple audio component, and it should play. Oh, let's add the attenuation to our sound. All right, so scroll down here, and then add this attenuation settings to our sound, and now very cool. Notice how you get that bounce off the left side. Or on the opposite side, I should say. I will still drop it. It's still a little loud for my tastes, but I will drop it here in the instance. I'll go for 0.5, something like that. All right, now what we want to do is we want to add an override. So let's pretend that this space is part of a room. So let's go something like this. So we'll say, let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this and this. And let's just get rid of that. Yeah, I'll get rid of that. Okay. So what we'll say is when the listener is inside here, we want to use our small reverbs, right? So let's make a let's make an effect based off of our small room. So let's make another convolution effect. Okay. And this will be our small room reverb. Okay, boom. And then we will pop that in there. Cool. Okay, so let's add an audio volume. And we will roughly size this audio volume to the dimensions of our room, our quote-unquote room. And remember that the audio volume triggers on the placement of the listener, which is our camera in this case. So we'll do a quick build to fix the lighting because it's bothering me. Yes, it's fine. Yes, you will get lighting. Okay. All right. Now what we will do is, with our audio volume selected, we will scroll down to the new Submixes section. And I will talk about this first setting in another video because it is so awesome it deserves its own video. What I'm going to talk about now is this second setting. And what this second setting does, the Submix override settings, it allows me to override the effect chain on any submix. So, on our convolution effect chain, when in this room, I want to use this small room reverb, and we'll give it a little crossfade. Let's actually do a very generous 1 second crossfade. All right, so now when I pop in here, it's going to swap out the effect chain with this small room, and then when I pop back, it should set it back to our query preset. All right. So let's play. There's our query. I pop into here. Nice. Not too shabby, right? There's a little bit of energy still in the reverb, but it's not too bad. So, And if we wanted to push it a little, we could push the small room, the sense of the small room. We could double the volume of the small room, really push the small room sound. Hear those tight reflections? Nice. Cool. So, those are some cool new things to try out. The other bit of Submix send settings, those I will talk about in some other video for sure. But they are very, 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 very cool. Oh, and one last thing. You can also, obviously because they're audio volumes, you can, nest these. If you remember my Submix Effects Manager, this is like way more convenient. Way more convenient. So have at it. Enjoy. Enjoy.